is to be able to be a seer, to be a knower, to be someone that has clarity, that can walk through life without getting confused by someone's energy saying one thing and their words saying something different. Seeing something and knowing it to be true and then being told that it's the opposite. It's like, what do we do with that? And I know that that happens a lot. And I think especially as we're sharing with the warriors at work, I think of, you're not a successful business person if you don't have the ability to manifest.
Welcome to the Warriors at Work show. This is Jeannie Coomber, your guide and host. This is a show for men and women in the workplace who want to move from the predictable to the potent. This is your weekly dose of inspiration with an edge. I talk with CEOs and shamans, sports marketing executives and therapists. All of us are like-minded thinkers and doers who tell stories, share wisdom, and challenge each other to have the best life possible inside and outside the office. Welcome to your warrior conversation. Hey everybody, it's Jeannie. Thanks so much for joining me at the Warriors at Work show. Today, we're going to have a fascinating conversation about shamanism. Yes, shamanism, and how we all have access to this. And as leaders, executives, entrepreneurs, business owners, we actually exercise many of the same attributes that are talked about in shamanism. And this ancient wisdom, this ancient way of being is something that I get to dive into with Ray and Nina Crist. They are a husband and wife team. Ray founded the Jaguar Path in 2007 after he went through an extraordinary personal medical scare where he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in 2003, was given 3 months to live. And he decided to step into the world of shamanism. He had a real interest in learning about indigenous wisdom. And it was through that health scare and a diagnosis like that he found his way into the world of shamanism and has been studying with shamans for the last 15 years. He's brought all of that wisdom forward as he founded the Jaguar Path and connected with Nina, his wife, who also went through the Jaguar Path of shamanism training. She's been studying martial arts since she was 17 years old. She's a returning guest on the Warriors at Work show where she's talked to us about various martial arts modalities, energy management, energy practices. But today's conversation really breaks down how relatable shamanism is to all of us as leaders, business owners, executives. And you're wondering, why are you having a conversation about shamanism and why are you doing this now? Well, it's something I've been thinking about particularly over the last 2 years, how we have sort of this elevated sense of consciousness as to who we are. We're asking bigger questions. We're way more reflective than I think we've ever been. And I thought about it through the lens of, look, leaders, we're responsible for making relationships, systems, and organizations whole. We also help others interpret the world in a new and constructive way. And our success is reliant on self-study, rituals, communication, reinforcement, and addressing disconnects. All of this helps us to bring our best self forward. So guess what? You're practicing the principles of shamanism every time you do that. So this conversation breaks down what shamanism is, what it's not, what are the most powerful modalities that we all have access to, and what are Ray and Nina seeing right now in the world. I welcome you with open arms and a big, big heart for a really powerful conversation. Enjoy. So welcome Ray and Nina Crist from the Jaguar Path to Warriors at Work. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you for having us over. It's an honor.
And so for everybody watching and listening, Ray and Nina are joining us from Nosara, Costa Rica. Here we are in the dead of winter and they're in paradise. And that actually is such a perfect backdrop for this conversation because you're inspired by the environment in which you're in right now. Where I thought we could start this conversation is, I was thinking so much about this conversation. As you know, we've been preparing for this for a while.
And I am really excited to demystify really what shamanism is and encourage everybody to embrace this conversation, as we all have access to this, whether we're leaders, we're entrepreneurs, or owners of business, we all have access to this. And you both, through the Jaguar path, just taking something that Nina, you just said to me, is this is about educating people about how accessible this is. So I want everybody to think about this as like, this is a learning and development course, a quick seminar on how you can tap into this, the same way you would sign up for some course inside of your organization. This is in service to all of you through this conversation. So where I thought we could start is I read a lot of descriptions of what a shaman is, and it just made me smile. Here's a few: service providers, shapeshifters, soul restorer. I would love for you to first describe what is shamanism from your perspective, and why are you doing this work in the world?
I think all three statements you made are absolutely true. I personally started my seeking to find shamans in 2003, 2004. I was diagnosed with cancer. So I felt that the only way I could survive would be to find some miracle workers or sorcerers, shamans. And so I started a big journey through Mexico and all the way down through Peru. I did do one surgery at the National Institute of Health. And it is clear to me that I wouldn't be here without the surgery, but it's also really clear to me that I wouldn't be here without the shamans and without changing my perspective of life. I feel blessed. I feel blessed. I met some amazing people, amazing shamans who continue to be my teachers. I've been apprenticing with them for more than 15 years now together. They've also officiated our wedding. We've been to Peru with them. They've come to our home in America. Next month, they're coming here to our home here in Costa Rica. The specific lineage that we work with, the Karo Nation people, is amazing. And their whole view of life is immersed with love and sweetness, affection, and clarity. One of the most important things that I realized as soon as I arrived in Peru in front of my beloved teacher, now he's my teacher, my brother, my comrade in arms, an ally in life. One of the first things he said to me is that he said, "Ray, you're lost. So you need a new map and you need a new compass." And that's something we don't think of in the Western world. We think of careers and we think of what we should do. And we just follow perhaps that school, university, job, and that's it. Just a line of that we just move through. It's the map essentially is a subconscious. And what the Keros and what Don Francisco was telling me is like, if you can't think correctly to begin with about where you stand towards the feminine, where you stand towards the other animals that live on the planet, and where you stand towards magic, then you're simply lost. You don't have the map, you don't have a compass, and you're making up a new culture that is anthropocentric, male-centric, and it will only bring us all to dis-ease, something we are now seeing really clearly happening right throughout the whole planet, from environmental issues to, of course, disease that is present.
So I just want to say back a couple of things that I heard, and then Nina, I'd love for your perspective. So really what you're saying is you gravitated towards, first of all, the shamanism route because of that message. You're lost, you're missing a compass. That resonated with you as truth. And then the lineage that they represented also resonated with you in terms of your belief system and what you valued in life. And you talk a lot about the feminine energy. Do I have that right?
That is correct. That is correct. Okay. Yes.
And Nina, I'd love for you to talk about how you describe shamanism and why did it resonate? Why does it resonate with you? What is it about it, about this world and about this particular way of being that is really speaking truth to you, that you wanted to share more and more messages with the world?
Yeah, and similar to Ray in the sense that it's like really personal. For me, I think back to growing up. I grew up in Maine. I grew up in a place with a lot of nature, and it was common to just be outside all day, every day. And I found myself like really just feeling my best when I was close to nature. And then as life has it, life brought me into my career and moving through the rhythm of trying to achieve and making things happen that I felt like were the definition of success that I had been taught. And as shaman, for me, my life, at 17, I became a martial artist. Like Ray mentioned, I'm a black belt. I taught martial arts to children in school districts for many, many years. But then really started to notice that the parents were, the kids were loving it, but the parents were really in need of it as well. And martial arts is also a form of shamanism. So we have shamanism throughout all the cultures. The cultures around the world express shamanism in different ways, and it's really the lineage of martial arts that I studied and practiced and engaged with was about really connecting with my authentic self, offering myself healing without needing to go outside of myself, not needing to externalize, not needing to like outsource my health, not outsource my wellness on all levels. And then, connecting with Ray, when we met, we still haven't stopped talking about the parallels between the martial arts and then the lineage of shamanism that Ray was just sharing, of the Caros, the Pacos, the earth keepers of Peru. And really what the common thread that is within all of these forms of shamanism is to be able to be a seer, to be a knower, to be someone that has clarity, that can walk through life without getting confused by someone's energy saying one thing and their words saying something different. Seeing something and knowing it to be true and then being told that it's the opposite. It's like, what do we do with that? And I know that happens a lot. And I think especially as we're sharing with the warriors at work, I think of, you're not a successful business person if you don't have the ability to manifest. And we talk about in our both in the lineages throughout the world of shamanism, we talk about the power of fire to transform. So a shaman is someone that can transform energy. If something isn't going well, if there's an energy that is not healthy, if there's a quality of energy in the office, with a client, within your body, within your mind, can you transform it? Do you have the tools? Do you have the respect and the value for yourself to prioritize yourself and address that? Instead of just being like, oh, I'll deal with that later. And then that's like that linear track that Ray was talking about, where it's just like, keep going. And then all of a sudden we just keep hitting that same wall. But this is success. This is success. And it's the people that are the entrepreneurs that say, hold on, there's got to be another way. That's the inner shaman.
Yep.
That's the inner shaman's kind of speaking up and being like, I'm not doing it this way. I don't care if the whole world is saying this is how it's supposed to be done. I'm choosing
it can't be done.
Yeah. I'm choosing to listen to my inner knowing. And what we teach in our school is that we have the thinking mind, and there's the vibration and kind of the volume of the mind that can be like, I got to do this and that and so and that, and like all the different voices that can happen. And then the voice of the shaman is a lower volume. And it's not until we can quiet the mind that we can allow ourselves to listen to that inner voice that maybe isn't as loud, maybe not as obnoxious at times, and really not only listen to it, but then respond through action to that. And the shamans of Peru, the Pacos, they say the most powerful form of healing is affection, and affection is love in action. And so it's like, can we show up for ourselves and have affection? Can I listen to that inner voice and then take action on that and show myself, hey, I value you. I respect you. And then the talk about warriorship, you've got to be a warrior if you're going to beat to your own drum. If everyone is saying we're all exiting the room at this time, going through that door, and you're like, I'm going to get up early and I'm going to go out the back door and I'm out of, like, I'm going to miss the crowd. That takes us, that's warriorship, because you have this inner strength and the trust of your inner knowing to say, I'm going to do it differently. And then all of a sudden, who are the leaders?
Exactly.
The ones that have the strength to step up and say, I'm going to do this a little differently. I'm going to do it so it's easier. I'm going to use less energy. I'm going to give myself permission to move through my day with flow and ease, and stop running into that same wall. Just not doing it anymore.
That, right. You just characterized particularly what's going on in the workplace over the last couple of years, just the extraordinary circumstances everyone's finding themselves in. And I think that word affection, again, that's not a word you would hear a business person ever say, but I think it's really important that we open the door to language like that.
Absolutely.
Really, really important. Ray, were you going to say something?
I'm really inspired by a couple of things, everything, but a couple of things that Nina just said. That shaman is a knower. So I feel I want to share with people a little bit more of this. I think this mystified. Shamanism is mystified, and it doesn't have to be. I know personally, 16 years of being steeped very closely with the elders, close to the chief, as a brother, as a son, as family. Right? I've raised my son. They've raised their children. We've raised our kids together. What I've discovered is we're all shamans. And first of all, the word shaman, comes from a Russian language, and it means the knower. And that's what Nina was saying, the knower. And it also refers to the seer, as in, I can see what is in front of me. One of the biggest questions I had, and I bugged my teachers, like, teach me how to see energy, teach me how to see energy. Teach me, I wanted I thought this, out of this reality, out of this realm, that I would see these things, right? That's what I thought it would be. And eventually, now I do see energy, but I was only trained that we all see energy, always. I continue to see what I'm seeing. My eyes have not changed, but now I know what I'm seeing. So one person is not being truth to what they're saying. It's really apparent. And that's the biggest lesson I've learned, and I share. It's just like, when you do not follow the mind that you have in your head, that is the collective consciousness thinking. It's like, right, I want to be logical. I want to be logical. I want to be, what's the word? I want to have common sense. Here's what Carl Jung said wonderfully. It said all this work with the shamans is uncommon sense. And exactly like Nina said, yes, I can always move with the crowds, and that makes me safe. I'm safe, keeps me safe, because if everyone's going towards that cliff, then why should I go with them? It's okay, right? Where the uncommon sense, as again Carl Jung mentioned and refers to the work of the shamans, says that maybe there's another way. Maybe there's another way, and I have to stop thinking and tap into something greater than myself and my thinking, the thinking of my narrator in my brain, right? That's been taught to me by my language, my culture, my school, and that's a small part of life, because life is greater. Life is all cultures, all languages, all races. Life is much bigger. So if I allow myself to be in that narrow place, then I see only from there. I can only judge. I can't reach that place of discernment of the seer.
If we were in a room together, I'd be jumping up and down right now. Like, yes, exactly. This work that I'm in, it's getting people to stop looking at things through what you've been conditioned to believe. Yes. Pay attention to what you're feeling. Pay attention to that whisper. It doesn't mean you're dysfunctional if you spend time there. It's actually expanding your capacity to do things. And the more you listen, the more options, and optionality right now is a key theme. It's like, get your head out of here and up here and just thinking and paying attention. And as you were describing that, I was thinking, okay, we talked about it like out here. I want to bring it in a little bit because people might be listening to this conversation wanting to put a label on it. If I put a label on it, I can action it in some way. So what I want to do is let's make the distinction between shamanism, spirituality, or is it intuition, or is it all combined? So I would love for you to just create some clarity here. So what is the difference between shamanism and spirituality?
Want me to take that one?
Go for it. Yeah.
I'll give my, as you speaking that, my first thought was, well, we all are energy in physical vessels, right? So let's just like break it down to the basics. We all have a physical body. We can see it as our vessel, our container for the energy that runs through our body. And that energy is seen as spirit. And spirituality is about really fortifying that energy. How do we get that energy to be vibrant? How do we get that energy to be luminous and give it permission to shine out into our life, into our loved ones? So spirituality to me are the practices that really kind of are like the vitamins, right? The exercise for our energy. And shamanism is connecting to nature, connecting to our own true nature, connecting to the animals, connecting to the elements in nature. And so if you think about what's going to fortify the spirit, well, connecting with animals, we talked about affection. Our Lao Gung point is right in the center of the palm, which is our pericardium 8 point, which is basically connects to the guardian of our heart. And so when we're petting a cat or petting our dog, we're connecting that affection right into our heart space. And the reason I say that is because our cats, our dogs, this is part of nature. They have this like vibration that right, they can just fall asleep. Sometimes we have a nervous pet, but it's usually because of us. It's like,
That's true.
But when we connect with shamanism, we're connecting with the elements, and we are going to feel better. Our spirit is going to get that boost. And so to me, I would say that there is that weaving. And so I was thinking this earlier. I don't know why I got this vision of someone being like, okay, shaman, like, do I start wearing feathers, and do I have staff, and I go into the office and my next staff meeting is going to be like, all right, guys, we're bringing shamanism in. Yeah, we don't need rattles and bells and feathers and all of this. It's beautiful. And that's a lot of times how shamans are depicted in art and ceremony. But I think of our teachers, here we are. A shaman to me is that person that walks into the boardroom and everyone's energy changes, everyone's energy lightens, and there's hope and there's excitement because we've got a plan. I can feel they've got a plan. We're going to get out of this mess. To me, that's a shaman. And so I'm guessing many of you that are watching this, you are shaman. And it's almost like admitting that to yourself. And it doesn't need to be that word, but just acknowledging like, yeah, I am a leader. I do have a unique knack to lead with intuition. And maybe you don't even admit that to anyone else, but you know that it's your intuition that's guiding you. And then you have your intuition, but then you fact check it and you kind of check the strategy, and you dig deeper. But without that inner knowing, you wouldn't have thought or known to look deeper into those areas. So to me, it's interchangeable. As we were jumping on together, we shared with you where we're living with the ocean and the sky, and we're just right in the depths of this vibrant nature of Costa Rica. Everything's thriving around us. That naturally supports us in thriving. Right. So we've chosen intentionally to be in a space of thriving. We've made that choice. And it's not about, I think of people that are maybe in a city right now. It's like, you can step outside and look up. There's infinite space into the sky above you. There's always earth beneath you. And then there's, the plants that we bring in and the animals that we bring in. So whether you are part of a religion, whether you're completely against religion or you're into religion, or you are practicing yoga and connecting with the deities within the yoga culture. If you have a temple that you like to go to, I know for my mother, she loves to put her hands in the earth, and gardening is her spirituality. And, I don't think she says that, but I'm saying that for her. My father's an athlete. He's a coach. That's his spirituality. He goes and he gets into the strategy and the plays, and like he's outside and he's with his friends, and it's like moving their body and yelling and laughing. And that is spirit, right? Mm-hmm. So I see shamanism and spirituality showing up in our lives in so many places that aren't labeled to be such. And so if anything for today, my hope is that start to see the magic of, I want to say the magic of the mundane, because mundane, the simple parts of life are what are so beautifully profound, especially when we have a moment where we are pulled back from having access to the most simple pleasures, the most simple rhythms, the most simple things that we like to do. Having a cup of coffee with a friend in town. When that gets taken away, all of a sudden that seems quite magical, right? Rather than just being thrown into the mix of like, okay, I've got a 15-minute window, I can make this happen. But those things that we schedule in for ourselves in those 15-minute windows are the ones that energize us, right? So it's all about energy. It's all about if the energy is heavy or light, and how we can continue to really be the shaman in the sense that we are transforming our energy from heavy to light, and allowing that lightness to be sustained and then shared.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think? I mean, it's an esoteric term when you think about this word and a business conversation. Like what we're doing is we're bridging the two. Why do you feel that there's so much resistance to this word shamanism? Or being a shaman? What is it?
I think one of the reasons that people are afraid of shamanism is that they're afraid that it's some sort of a religion. And of course, there's a big leap immediately that's a cult kind of religion. Right. Shamanism is not a religion at all. It doesn't talk about God. It talks about nature. Shamanism is understanding that we're part of a greater nature. We're a small part, right? And this is, I feel, where it all... when we really started creating that kind of like fear towards the word shamanism was in the Dark Ages in Europe. In the Dark Ages, and I don't want to stay on this too long, but I'm saying the Dark Ages, 3 things were persecuted: women, animals, and magic. This can have books written about this whole thing, but this is where we live. This is the result. Our culture, and if it's okay to say the white culture, is a culture that it comes as a result of 300 or 400 years of persecution of women, persecution of magic, where there was a separation at some point, and they said humans are the favorite creation of God, and the rest are the beasts that they're dirty, they should be driven away. Now, and then we watch, of course, it's like, right, all the totems were taken away and everything, but still, because we are all shamans, we still snuck in the dogs and the cats, the jaguars and the wolves, right? They're still friends of ours. And we know how healing that is. Any person, I mean, I think more than half the population of the Western world will have a pet. Or the magic and the animals were driven away to extinction, literally, especially through Europe. Yet we all snuck them back in. All big cities of the world have zoos. Because we need that relationship. We are mammals. We're not something that is just happened to come on this planet. We're not aliens. We're part of this whole bigger family. So I feel that the shorter part of the question would be, the answer rather would be to say that we're afraid of it because we've been put to the pyre for 400 years. So you talk magic, and I've witnessed this. I've worked for many years in the United States, and 15 years ago, I would say I work with shamans, and people would say, oh, and they would kind of like pull back, you know. And now there's a turn happening. And when I say I work with shamans of Peru, more often I see, people lean in a little bit and they want to hear about the culture. They want. But so I just want to say two things to add is, first of all, like in my books, great shamans that we know in the Western world, were like Steve Jobs. You know, people would go to Steve Jobs and say, well, you can't, I mean, look at this. We can see each other from the other side of the world, and people will join us from other parts of the world to watch this, right? This is magic, because if you'd said this 20 years ago, just 20 years ago, people were saying to Steve Jobs, it's impossible. And he would say, you're fired. Right. Until he would find the other person that was a shaman also and say, it's nearly impossible, but I will persist. I will persist until I figure out the way to do it. And I feel that's what a shaman is a knower, a seer, a person that is humble enough to persist, but not afraid to admit that, yes, I can assume responsibility and I can give it all. Right?
Wow. That's beautiful how you just characterize that. And I love those examples that you just provided too.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Warriors at Work show. If you are interested in learning more about what we do at the Warriors at Work show and platform, be sure to go over to my website, Jeannie Coomber, and subscribe to my monthly Warrior Playbook newsletter. I share everything that I'm up to month by month, as well as some lessons and insights that I've learned. I'm also interested in hearing any feedback you have about this conversation or future topics. So reach out to me directly on jc@jeanniecoomber.com or on LinkedIn. Be sure to tell your friends and your colleagues about this Warriors at Work conversation. Subscribe, review, and rate us. It's the best way to get this message out into the world. Be well.